Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is fine. My name is Prabhat Singh, and today I am going to give my presentation on the topic cellular metabolism. First, we should know that what is metabolism. So, metabolism it is a process through which all living organisms, like us human beings or the reptiles or anything that is living and breathing, can take energy. So it is a process through which we take the energy and we can continue our living processes like walking, eating, and things other than that. So living organisms, there are two types of living organisms: the prototrophs and the chemotrophs. The prototrophs are the organisms which use sunlight to convert simple molecules that serve as a fuel to perform life processes. Means that for example, we can take plants. They take sunlight and they produce different types of uh, substances which we human beings eat, and then we digest it and utilize it as energy, and the plants also use that energy to thrive themselves. And the chemotrophs, these are the living organisms which utilize chemicals, means they utilize electrons and protons and digest their food or structurally break their food to get energy from from the things they have eat, like us. Now there are many pathways through which in living organism there are many pathways that they can break down the biomolecules they have ingested in themselves, and the synthesis and breakdown of biomolecules are achieved through a number of steps. So these steps collectively are known as metabolic pathways, and the metabolic pathways can be broadly classified into two types: anabolic pathways and catabolic pathways. In anabolic pathways, their larger and complex molecules are made up of from the small molecules. That in with their small molecules, and from that the living organisms make complex molecules, and that process is known as anabolic pathway. Uh, they require energy to make to make larger molecules from small molecules, and they are endogenic, means they consume energy, as I have told earlier, and the whole process is known as anabolism. Now the catabolic pathway, this involves the breakdown of larger molecules into smaller molecules, and they release energy in the process. They break down the larger molecules into smaller molecules. They produce energy, and the energy is utilized in the organism to perform the activities they are performing, and they are exogenic. That means they are excreting energy while doing the process, as I have told earlier. Now, the process is known as catabolism. Now, the glycosis. This is the process which in which our body, human being body, break down the glucose. As we thrive on glucose, the glucose is the main source of energy in our body. Glucose or carbohydrates, as we say. These are the main source of energy in our body. And how do we get energy from the glucose? Is the breakdown of glucose which causes the which produces energy, is explained in glycolysis. Now glycolysis is a universal catalytic pathway in all living cells, also known as EMP pathway, Embedden Meor's Parnas pathway. It is a major pathway of carbohydrate metabolism. As I have said, that carbohydrate is also a major part of our energy need. We take energy, we utilize energy in two forms in our body. One is carbohydrates, and second is the stored energy, which is also known as fats. Many people think that fats are unnecessary, but it is a stored energy in our body. And the first thing is glucose, with the help of hexokinase and magnesium, it is converted into glucose 6 phosphate, and then this process is known as phosphorylation, and the catalyst is hexokinase. ATP is the phosphate donor here. It This reaction is irreversible. The first reaction here is irreversible. In the glycolysis process, the first, third, and 10th process is irreversible, and the enzyme hexokinase is inhibited when product binds to the enzyme at a site different from the active site and alters its catalytic activity. Now, then glucose 6 phosphate with the help of enzyme phospho hexose isomer and magnesium converts to fructose 6 phosphate. Now here it is a reversible process, and from fructose 6 phosphate it converts to fructose 1,6 diphosphate with the help of phosphofructokinase, and here also ATP is converted to ADP, which means it is an irreversible process, and it takes energy to convert from fructose 6 phosphate to fructose 1,6 diphosphate, and after it converts to fructose 1,6 diphosphate with the help of an enzyme aldolase, it converts into two types of molecules. First is 3-phosphoglyceraldehyde and second is dihydroxyacetone phosphate. Now, when it converts to acetone, it is nearly non-digestible, non-convertible after that. So it converts to 3-phosphoglyceraldehyde for the remaining process with the help of phosphofructose isomer, and after converting to 3-phosphoglyceraldehyde, then it converts to 1,3-diphosphoglyceric acid, and here the NAD, here the NAD plus is converted into NADH, means NADH plus H2. It is a form of a stored energy. It is with the product we get NADH. It is a stored energy when the ATP the produced in during the glycolysis process is fully used up. We use this NADH to convert it into we can use it, and then these molecules are converted into ATP for the excess energy that our body needs. Then from the product 1,3-diphosphoglyceric acid, it converts to 3-phosphoglyceric acid, and after the aldose, after the 3-phosphoglyceraldehyde, every product here that after conversion it is of two molecules. There are two molecules are produced after every conversion. Before there are only one molecules produced, and here there are two molecules produced, two ATPs, two NADH, and from 1,3-diphosphoglyceric acid to 3-phosphoglyceric acid, during that conversion we obtain our very first two molecules of ATP. Before that we have utilized ATP during the conversion process, but during this process we gain the ATP. Our body gains the ATP first time in this process. Then from 3-phosphoglyceric acid to 2-phosphoglyceric acid, and then to phosphophenol pyruvic acid, and then after that lastly the conversion it converts to pyruvic acid, and during this process also two ATPs are released, and then energy yield. Here the energy yield by the glycolysis, the energy produced during the energy it takes during the glycolysis process, the net reaction in the transformation of one molecule of glucose into two pyruvate molecules. Here through this reaction we can see that how many ATPs are produced, and ADPs produced and NADS produced by taking how much ATPs glucose NAD plus, that kinds of thing. And then there are two ways to break down of pyruvate. If there is an lack of oxygen, then the fermentation take place in which there are the lactic acid and the alcohol are produced, and if there is oxygen present, the pyruvate acid go through the Krebs cycle and transform into carbon dioxide, water, and energy. Here the we can see in the figure, we can see that glucose to pyruvate, then pyruvate through anaerobic means the fermentation process goes to produce ethanol, means alcoholic fermentation, or la- uh, lactic acid. As we know that when we work out, our body produces lactic acid, through which we feel fatigue, that our muscles are sore. So the lactic acid formation happens in the muscles, and the alcoholic fermentation happens in the yeast. As we know that when we are baking a bread, when we add yeast, the fermentation process there happens. It produces carbon dioxide, which causes the dough to rise up. And this is the process through which the glucose breakdowns and forms carbon dioxide. It is the process is known as alcoholic fermentation, as we can see here. And fermentation result in 2 ATP per glucose, means the one molecule of glucose produces 2 ATP, means if there are 10 glucose, then 20 ATPs, like that. Now the citric acid cycle, or the anaerobic process, if there is aerobic process, if there is presence of alcohol in there. First, pyruvate acid is converted into acetyl CoA. Then from acetyl CoA, it converts to citrate with the help of citrate synthesis and the enzyme. Then from that, cis acinotate, then isocitrate, oxalosuccinate, and then after that alpha ketoglutarate, succinyl CoA, succinate, fumarate, and L-maltase. Then lastly, oxaloacetate. From this is the cycle through which the pyruvate acid we get from the glycolysis process. It converts into the acetate, and during this it produces GTP, which is also a form of an ATP, and NADH and FADH, which is a stored form of ATP, through which we the further breakdown of these molecules will give us ATP, which is a uh, which we can call that they are the stored ATPs, which help our body in gain energy when we are in dire need of it, when the ATPs are finished or fully consumed by our body. Now, after that happen, there is electron transport chain, through which uh, NADH and FADH are uh, converted to ATPs. There are four complexes or four structures through which they are converted. First is complex 1, which is NADH-Q oxidoreductase, and complex 2 is succinate Q reductase. Complex 3 is Q sit C oxidoreductase, and the complex 4, which is sit C oxidase. Now ETS involve these electron carriers are large. These are the electron carriers, and these electron carriers are large transmembrane protein complexes with multiple oxidation reduction centers, such as quintose, flavins, iron sulfur clusters, heme, and copper iron, and they convert the NADH or FADH into the energy our body requires. And and this is the last process, the oxidate phosphorylation or ATP synthesis. The flow of electron from NADH or FADH to O2 in the last process, ETS, through four protein complexes located in the mitochondrial inner membrane, lead to pumping of protons out of their mitochondrial matrix side to the systolic side of the inner mitochondrial membrane. Means it is present in the mitochondrial membrane, this oxidative phosphorylation. and from there the protons are released in the ATS process, which then gets converted, mixed with ADP, and then it will convert to ATP with the help of the protein, and the resulting, this is the last process in it, and through which, and after this process we get the ATP, through which our body functions as it is required. Thank you.